Yeah, I think we have completely different styles.
Steve now collapsed on by the rest of H2K. That's a triple kill for the Kalista. They can take this Baron for free.
They have a really strong methodical style, going for the objectives.
They definitely like to fight a lot and just start fights out over nothing and out of nothing.
Youngblood gets knocked forward and everyone gets knocked away. That's a double kill for Power of Evil, 7-0-2.
If Power of Evil gets behind, I don't see them doing too much.
We're used to it, so it's not going to be a big problem for us.
That is going to be yet a quadra kill. The Nexus turret melting after all of that.
H2K has always been one of the teams that we have been struggling with. Just keep in mind what we want to achieve.
The Unicorns of Love are onto the Nexus, and they destroy Copenhagen Wolves.
It is going to be better for us because we're just going to play more aggressive.
Welcome back to the European League Championship Series. We are halfway through week 3 here at our studios in Berlin, Germany. As you can see, the place is packed and the fans are absolutely ready to go. And just a moment ago, they were like, please let us in. We want to see all the action, and they are super excited. There are the Giants walking in, definitely in the zone and in the sun a little bit as well, reminding them of their home country that it's getting sunny here in Berlin as well. And there is Fnatic setting up on stage, ready for their first match and looking to remain undefeated with Huni there. They're the coaches Lothar and Daylor, talking shop, probably on Espanol, but we don't know for sure. I'm EpicSkillshot supporter, and joining me on the analyst desk is Trevor Quickshot Henry.
Thank you very much.
You look great.
Thank you, thank you. I wanted to break out the new jackets. I also want to give some luck to Stress and to Pulse. They're actually over in DreamHack this weekend, casting the Nordic Open. So we'll have to see how well the Nordic teams perform, considering that they casted the 4 Nations not too long ago.
Yeah, definitely good luck to those guys over there. Now we're going to dial in on the standings after the action yesterday and see what we've got going on for us today. Of course, still undefeated at the top of the tables are Fnatic and Origin. Then Giants and H2K and Unicorns of Love, Copenhagen Wolf, Elements, Gambit Gaming, Roccat. They all have a win, but there's one team that's still trailing, that's SK Gaming. I would like to start with dialing in on Giants because they're absolutely on a tear. 4-1 now, and it's been going incredibly well for that team.
It really, really has. They got a 4-game winning streak. They're playing multiple styles. The first couple wins, they had aggressive games. The last 2 wins, they had these poke games. I think what's very important to note, that 4-1 record is going to give them a very nice buffer against the teams below them. So if the other teams start fixing their problems and start becoming more competitive, they've now got a much more difficult route into the playoffs, and Giants have got that air of safety to play with.
Yeah, talking about a difficult route, Gambit, SK Gaming at the bottom of the standings, but Gambit, they did manage to get a win yesterday versus the Copenhagen Wolves. It was slow, it was steady, but they did it.
Yeah, look, it wasn't a pretty win, but it was a win. Forgiven was very outspoken on social media about the matchup. He was even quite strongly worded in his interview, saying that the team is still trying to come together. But for Gambit, what's important to note is they have that win. They played safely, they got an advantage, they closed the game out. They were saying as well that they were just scared to make mistakes, scared to throw that lead away. So we'll see how Gambit can continue to play, and for SK it's all about scraping the bottom of the barrel now. They have made different mistakes in every game, and they've got to make less mistakes if they want to win.
Yeah, and they're up against Gambit today. We will see in that game, Gambit versus Copenhagen Wolves, we saw a jungle Echo, by the way. We also saw a mid and Froggen. 0-2 so far in Europe. What is your take?
Echo's overpowered.
Yeah.
I think Froggen played very well. He had a great scoreline towards the end of the game. If memory serves, it was 4-1-4. I'm not as convinced when I think of Airwax in the jungle going full tank with Cinderhulk. What we did see from both players, however, is just how difficult it was for the team to play around that champion. There was so much more setup and timing and communication required that it didn't really work out. I do think Froggen deserves a little bit of extra praise because he had a great laning phase, he had a great performance, and it was against the #1 team in the league at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see in a couple of weeks when the teams have some more practice. Maybe they can pull out some crazy plays on that Echo. Before we move on to the games around day 2, we do want to dial in on a big play from day 1. Yesterday was Elements versus Fnatic. Elements had a tough game, but at one moment they could sneak that Baron or get that Baron and decided to go bottom lane for a push, but it fell apart there for them.
It really did. And, we keep doing these mic checks on PTL and listening into the comms, and we got a note from the guys on that team saying that, look, the communication in this game was very interesting and very different. So we decided to look at one of these team fights, one of these tower dives after Elements had secured the Baron. Now, Elements were a lot more proactive, a lot more aggressive than we've seen in previous weeks. So we wanted to highlight what the communication was like from this team because we don't really know. It's 4 new players around Froggen. So we're going to pull up a replay in just a moment, and I want you guys to listen to the communication from the players as well as look at the decision-making, how they're landing their abilities. So let's get that first clip up of Elements tower diving Fnatic.
Hecarim is top. He can still do it. He cannot TP in time.
I'm just gonna be ready for my ulti. Be ready for ulti.
Yeah. Call it if you see it. You got it, man.
You wanna dive? Just straight up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can.
Hecarim is
Putting
down.
against Azir, it's hard.
Let's go. Go fuck it. I'm gonna go here.
Reyna?
Oh my god, I choked so hard.
Huni.
Huni. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, we don't know what their communication is like regularly, but it does feel like there's a lot of pressure there and calls that you might feel a little pressure to do well. And we saw Promiscu the minute after he missed that Bard ultimate, but immediately very down on himself as well.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, that was a literal facepalm.
Yeah.
You could also hear a bit of confusion. Should we dive? Must we dive? Tabs airs this little hint of like, oh, it's difficult against Azir, and then they still do it anyway. And then they miss some of their key abilities. I think it's very interesting to hear how Elements are talking Frog in a very loud voice, but not necessarily taking into account the information from the rest of his team.
Yeah, and keeping in our thoughts as well. This was a high coordination comp, but maybe then the communication needs to follow up as well. And we, of course, want to see what it was like on the other side, so we're going to pull up the clip from Fnatic in that same team fight.
We have a ward here too, so if they go up and hit, we can even TP here, no? Or even in the...
I'm gonna TP. I have flash, then I'm gonna... When they hit turret?
Yes.
I go TP here.
I think we can fight when they hit tower. We have shields right now.
Go. I
go. I go.
On me, Fizz.
Vayne.
Hey, Echo and Bard.
Vayne.
Echo. Carol.
Look.
Stay together.
We can kill everyone. Nice.
Echo is here.
Echo is here. Nice.
They use everything on me.
And I just think it's a very big difference when you hear how calm and collected Fnatic are. You hear the setup. If they go tower, should I TP? Yellow star, very clear yes. They go tower, then it's all 3 voices, go, and all of a sudden you hear the silence again and they're just picking targets. Now, you could get a little pedantic and say they're picking multiple champions because you heard a couple of different names being thrown around, but that's just me being a little overly critical. Cool, calm, collected, there was no panic, there was no worry, despite fighting a team with Baron buff. So it was a very, very good call. And also, if you contrast that to Spring, when all we heard from Fnatic in Spring was wah, 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 wah. This is a significant improvement.
Yeah, definitely Daylor maybe having something to do with that as well. Well, they are the Spring Split champions after all, Fnatic, and we're going to see if they can keep their cool today. Fnatic is up versus Giants in the first game of the day, where we have Elements versus the Copenhagen Wolves as well. And of course, the Unicorns of Love versus H2K, our game of the week right at the end there. It's going to be an interesting one. UOL really had quite a bad showing yesterday. H2K was pushed, we got to be honest with that, so we'll see how that plays out.
Both of those teams had big question marks from yesterday. However, of course, H2K did get the win, so we'll need to see if that has shaken either of their confidence coming into today's game.
Yeah, we will see. Now, with a lot of high priority picks on the table this week, we want to ask you, who is your must-pick ban champion in the current meta and why? Trevor.
I think it depends a lot in the LCS and the team that you're playing against, but definitely on the patch and in the meta, Ryze is up there, Alistair's up there. I think Gragas definitely has to be a consideration because he's so powerful in the jungle.
What about you if you're playing a game? Who are you
Blitzcrank, because I play AD carry, but no, I'd probably Gragas. I can't stand Gragas. He's so good at all stages of the game, and I hate being knocked around by that barrel.
Right. I'm learning top lane, and Riven, man, no.
Yep.
Be sure to send your responses at LL Esports and include that hashtag LCS, and we're going to check out some of your responses later today. And now we're going to dial in on the match at hand between Fnatic and Giants Gaming. Starting with the lineup for Fnatic, they are lining up on the blue side for this one with Huni, Rainover, Bebevin, Reckless, Yellow Star, and Daylor. Now, yesterday, we saw them going back to basics in their game versus Elements. They had the Rek'Sai there, they had the Hecarim there, and just playing it out like they normally would.
Yeah, they really had a lot of comfortable picks, and despite actually giving up a couple of kills to Elements in the early game, and playing quite an interesting composition with the Fizz, the Echo, the Vayne, the Bard. These are champions that are not super common right now. Fnatic did not flinch. They did not give up any ground, and you saw from that clip earlier today how good their communication was and just how good their team fighting is. So very impressive performance from Fnatic, more of what we expected. and they're going to have to do again against Giants, who are a very strong team.
Yeah, definitely. I also really like their pick and ban phase. Once again, last time around, they left the Rise up and they had the counter in Cho'Gath. They're confident in the counters they can pick here, leaving the Echo up and going for that as well.
Yeah, very, very clear. So they know the powerful picks on the meta, and it's very smart because they seem to bait their opponents, leave the Rise up, leave the Echo up, and say, right, we dare you to pick it. After the dare or the bluff gets called, Fnatic says, well, we've got a counter. Thank you very much. We'll take another victory.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole team stepping up, but we do want to dial in on Reckless, of course, as he was playing versus his ex-team, and he had one of his best performances yet.
He really did. If you take a look at the stats that he had from that game, 7-1-9, 33% kill share, great GPM. Overall, Reckless had a better showing in his game against his former team than he did on his former team throughout most of the spring split.
All right, well, today Fnatic is up against the Giants, so we're going to look at the other side of Summoner's Rift, the red-hot Giants gaming. Werlib, then Frederick, El Bandido, then Pepinero, Adri, Godfred, and Lothar. They are 4-1, only losing to Origin week 1, day 1, and it almost seems like a footnote now because they've been on a tear since then.
Completely agree. 4 games, pretty convincing. A little slow to close out yesterday, but I'm being nitpicky. The thing that I like about the stat line, you can see 225 assists and a 5 KDA. That's actually the second highest number of assists out of all 10 teams in Europe. What that means is the team is grouping efficiently, they're pushing objectives as a team, and they're getting multiple members involved. It's no longer just the Pepinero carry show.
Yeah, definitely. And one person we've been having our eye on is Audrey in the AD carry role. Yesterday again versus Rocket. Had a fantastic game, had the most kills on his team, the highest damage dealt, and the highest kill participation versus Rocket over Pepinero, which is not something we see very often.
It really isn't. And it's on a champion that's not super ultra meta right now. Ezreal, he's going blue build. It's something that was popular last year. Audrey is becoming a carry that needs to be feared because the team is enabling it as well. Werlib's doing well, Peppy's doing well, Godfrey, the support that's coming for Summer. Every single one of them is carrying their respective weight.
Yeah, it's coming together very well. As you mentioned, the Ezreal there from Audrey. Let's actually pull up the team comp that the Giants pulled out versus Rocket yesterday, as said Ezreal. Then we have some very familiar things for them. Werlib on Jax, Frederick on Evelyn, the Morgana for Godfred, 4th time in a row. Then Varus, kind of a different spice there for Pepinero in the mid lane. But the question is, if they decide to go with this kind of a poke-heavy, maybe split pushy comp once again versus Fnatic, is that something that can work out?
I don't think it will. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Fnatic are a team that'll be able to play the map very effectively. They should be able to shut down Werlib's Jax because Fnatic know how to prioritize their resources. Second to that, yes, they have lost to Varus mid. It was Unicorns of Love in Madrid, but they've beat that poke style with Kog more recently. So Fnatic will have some tools in their kit on how to deal with those team comps. Another big question is Godfrey on that Morgana. You said it 4 games in a row, undefeated. Can Godfrey have the same impact on other champions? So those are some big questions for Giants. The first 2 wins they picked up in the split were not on poke-heavy comps. They were a bit more engage-heavy. Diana mid comes to mind. Let's see if they go back to that style against the aggressive Fnatic.
Yeah, a lot of questions, but we'll find some of the answers very soon. The teams are set on stage, and we're going to hand it over to the casters to get into the game. And as we go, we'll get some insight into the new approach Giants are taking to the summer split.
Yo creo que el equipo está, aparte de más fuerte, más motivado que el anterior split, y eso es que a la hora de ir a jugar aquí al stage y eso se nota muchísimo, porque no afrontamos las partidas igual, que es como a ver qué hacen, es más a ver qué hacemos. Creo que los otros equipos se están dando cuenta de que nosotros también podemos mejorar y que viéndoles cómo juegan, qué estilos tienen y eso, pues va siendo cada vez más fácil, ¿sabes? Poder jugar contra ellos y adaptarnos a su juego.